In what could become one of the most explosive chapters in South Africa's post-apartheid political history, sources have revealed that the police uncovered potentially incriminating evidence at the personal residence of Julius Malema. The discovery, if substantiated, may directly link the prominent political figure to the mysterious death of former Minister Sindiso Magoka. Although the investigation has been tightly controlled by the South African Police Service, SAPS, leaks from within law enforcement circles suggest that the high-profile raid on Malema's estate unearthed secret documents, encrypted digital devices, and other materials that could send shockwaves through the nation's political establishment. Should the findings withstand judicial scrutiny, Malema could face serious criminal charges, possibly ending his political career and exposing him to the risk of long-term imprisonment. The SAPS reportedly secured a high-level judicial warrant before conducting the search, ensuring the operation was legally sanctioned and meticulously supervised. According to insiders close to the investigation, law enforcement officers descended upon Malema's home in the early hours of the morning. They systematically combed through hidden compartments, private safes, and sealed rooms in search of evidence. Witnesses to the operation described a tense, feverish atmosphere as investigators carefully collected a diverse array of materials that initially appeared innocuous, but were later suspected to hold far-reaching implications. Among the seized items were multiple encrypted hard drives and USB devices believed to contain highly sensitive information. Investigators suspect these digital storage units hold vital communications, including voice notes, emails, and encrypted chat logs that could establish connections between Malema and several key individuals linked to Magoka in the days leading up to his death. Forensic experts within the SAPS are confident that advanced digital recovery techniques may allow them to retrieve erased files and hidden directories, potentially uncovering evidence of communications that could be pivotal in court. In addition to the digital evidence, investigators reportedly found international travel records and hotel reservations revealing trips to Europe, particularly Paris. These travel dates, according to leaked manifests, coincided closely with the final days of Magoka's life. This overlap has raised questions about whether Malema or his associates were in the same city as the late minister during his last hours, and whether their paths might have intersected in ways not yet publicly disclosed. The discovery of photographic and video materials added a further layer of intrigue. Some of the confiscated digital files reportedly contain surveillance-style recordings of unidentified individuals entering and exiting buildings, including luxury hotels. Detectives believe that some of these clips may have been filmed at the Hyatt Regency Paris Italy, the same hotel where Magoka's lifeless body was found. If authentic, these recordings could establish a direct link between Malema's circle and the scene of Magoka's death, a revelation that could drastically alter the trajectory of the ongoing investigation. The search also uncovered handwritten letters and documents believed to have originated from Malema's inner circle. These papers contained cryptic phrases such as a forced window, scissors, and *no struggle. Observers familiar with the French police report on Magoka's death immediately recognized these phrases as echoing details from the official account, which had referenced a broken window and a pair of scissors found in the hotel room. The peculiar correspondence has prompted investigators to consider whether the notes were written by individuals attempting to manipulate the public narrative or conceal traces of wrongdoing. Adding to the complexity of the case, the raid revealed substantial quantities of cash in various currencies as well as detailed banking records pointing to possible offshore financial structures. Authorities believe these documents expose a web of transactions involving shell companies and intermediaries, possibly used to funnel money between individuals connected to Magoka's final days. Forensic accountants working with the police suggest that decoding these financial movements could illuminate a broader network of political corruption and illicit financial dealings potentially extending beyond South Africa's borders. Further deepening suspicions, investigators also seized multiple burner phones and SIM cards, both domestic and foreign. Initial analysis indicated that several of these devices had been wiped shortly before the raid, while others displayed activity timestamps aligning with the night of Magoka's death. Digital experts assert that if deleted call logs or encrypted messages can be recovered, they may be instrumental in mapping communication patterns and identifying who was in contact with whom in the crucial hours before the minister's death. Even partial data, they argue, could allow the reconstruction of a communication web implicating possible conspirators. To appreciate the potential gravity of these findings, one must revisit what is publicly known about the death of Senator Mogaka, a controversial figure and former minister. Meg initially classified his death as a probable suicide, citing the broken window and scissors in the hotel room as evidence supporting this conclusion. However, the lack of a discernible motive and the suspicious nature of the physical evidence sparked widespread speculation. Although the official report stated there were no signs of struggle, conflicting witness accounts and discrepancies in surveillance records left many unconvinced. Given Mogaka's history of corruption allegations, money laundering, and political controversy, it was widely believed he had powerful adversaries. The evidence now linked to Malema's home cast these suspicions in a new light. The cryptic notes referencing key elements of the French report suggest possible prior knowledge or attempts to shape perceptions after the fact. Furthermore, the overlapping travel records and financial transactions imply that Malema or his associates may have shared contacts with individuals who were close to Mogaka in his final days. If these suspicions are substantiated, the political and legal consequences for Julius Malema could be catastrophic. Possible charges range from obstruction of justice and evidence tampering to conspiracy and being an accessory after the fact. Should prosecutors succeed in demonstrating a coordinated attempt to conceal the truth, Malema could also face charges of money laundering, fraud, and corruption. In the most severe scenario, if investigators can prove direct involvement in Moka's death, homicide-related charges carrying life imprisonment could follow. Legal analysts caution, however, that establishing such a case would require irrefutable forensic proof, credible eyewitness testimony, and a clearly demonstrated chain of intent. Without these elements, it would be difficult to secure a conviction in a case of this magnitude. Nonetheless, even the mere rumors of Malema's possible involvement have already sent tremors through South Africa's political landscape. The idea that one of the nation's most prominent political figures might be implicated in the suspicious death of a former minister has provoked public outrage and media frenzy. Despite the magnitude of the allegations, no major news outlet has independently verified the authenticity of the evidence purportedly seized from Malema's residence. Moreover, questions about the chain of custody and potential contamination of the materials have raised doubts about their admissibility in court. The SAPS has remained largely silent, confirming only that a collection of digital and financial materials were indeed recovered without specifying whether they bear relevance to the Mogaka investigation. Officially, the French authorities still classify Mogaka's death as a likely suicide. Yet that conclusion now faces renewed skepticism. Within South Africa's Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, the political party led by Malema, reports of internal turmoil have begun to surface. Some members are calling for Malema to temporarily step down in order to protect the party's reputation, while others insist that the allegations are politically motivated attempts to undermine one of the government's fiercest critics. Opposition parties in parliament have called for a comprehensive and transparent investigation into the matter. While murmurs within the ruling African National Congress, ANC, suggest that some factions may see the situation as an opportunity for strategic advantage. Across the nation, ordinary South Africans have followed the unfolding drama with a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. For many, the scandal epitomizes the dangerous intersection of political power and corruption at the highest levels of government. For others, it reflects the alarming politicization of state institutions and the weaponization of the justice system. Hashtags such as #JusticeForiniso, #Malema, and #political cover-up have dominated social media platforms, with users fiercely debating whether Malema is a perpetrator of political treachery or the victim of a calculated setup. As the investigation continues, the country remains suspended in uncertainty. Each new revelation adds layers of intrigue and the unanswered questions continue to multiply. Was Sindiso Magakoka's death truly a tragic suicide? Or was it the result of a meticulously orchestrated political assassination? Is Julius Malema guilty of a dark conspiracy or merely ensnared in an elaborate attempt to discredit him? Until the courts and investigators provide definitive answers, South Africa finds itself in a state of anxious limbo, its political future clouded by suspicion, its trust in leadership eroding, and its people left to grapple with the unsettling possibility that the truth, whatever it may be, could reshape the nation's destiny. The uncertainty surrounding the Julius Malema investigation has become a defining moment for South Africa's fragile democracy, exposing both the deep divisions within the political system and the broader crisis of public confidence in national institutions. As the inquiry unfolds, public sentiment oscillates between disbelief and outrage. Citizens who once viewed Malema as a voice for economic justice and radical transformation now find themselves confronting a darker narrative, one that intertwines power, corruption, and possibly violence. The political reverberations have extended far beyond the EFF, shaking the foundations of parliament, the judiciary, and even the international perception of South Africa's governance. Foreign observers and media outlets have started monitoring developments closely, aware that the scandal could significantly impact diplomatic relations, investor confidence, and the country's overall political stability. The media's coverage of the case has been both relentless and polarized. On one hand, independent journalists have demanded transparency and access to the alleged evidence. On the other, Malema supporters claim that the leaks are part of an orchestrated campaign to destroy his credibility ahead of key elections. Political analysts have pointed out that the timing of the raid and subsequent leaks could be strategic, possibly aimed at undermining Malema's influence within the opposition ranks or neutralizing him as a political threat. Nonetheless, even Malema's staunchest defenders acknowledge that the allegations, particularly those involving foreign travel overlaps, encrypted digital files, and suspicious financial trails, are too substantial to dismiss outright. The sheer scale of the evidence suggests that whether or not Malema is guilty, the state is preparing for a lengthy and complex legal battle that could dominate the national discourse for months or even years. Legal experts warn that the evidentiary process will be grueling. Every document, drive, and transaction will need to be authenticated, and the integrity of the chain of custody will become a decisive factor. Defense attorneys are likely to challenge the admissibility of the evidence, arguing that the leaks have prejudiced public opinion and violated Malema's right to a fair trial. Prosecutors meanwhile must navigate the intricate relationship between domestic criminal law and international cooperation, as some evidence, particularly that collected in France, falls under foreign jurisdiction. Coordination between the SAPS and French authorities will be essential to establishing a coherent timeline of events, a task complicated by differing legal frameworks and standards of evidence. Amid the growing tension, political life in South Africa has become increasingly volatile. Protests have erupted in several cities, with demonstrators demanding justice for Sindiso Magakoka and others insisting on due process for Julius Malema. The streets of Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Pretoria have witnessed parallel rallies, one side chanting justice for Magakoka, the other declaring hands off Malema. These opposing demonstrations underscore the widening rift in South African society, reflecting deeper anxieties about the manipulation of state institutions, political vendettas, and the erosion of trust in leadership within the EFF. Factionalism has reached a breaking point. Some members, fearing irreversible reputational damage, advocate for Malema's temporary suspension pending the outcome of the investigation. Others, convinced that the case is a political fabrication, view any concession as betrayal. This internal discord has weakened the party's cohesion and could jeopardize its influence in future elections. Meanwhile, the ruling ANC appears to be quietly calculating its next move, balancing between public condemnation of corruption and the political opportunity presented by the weakening of a formidable opponent. Behind closed doors, strategists within the ANC are reportedly debating how best to capitalize on the scandal without appearing opportunistic. Internationally, the unfolding saga has captured headlines in major outlets across Europe and Africa. The French government, wary of renewed scrutiny over the original handling of Moka's death, has pledged limited cooperation with South African investigators, but maintains that its own inquiry found no direct evidence of foul play. Nevertheless,